Hello, and welcome to our lesson on developing a worldwide sourcing program. This segment will cover evaluating cost associated with international purchasing. Purchasers must examine the additional cost associated with international purchasing. Whether the purchase transaction is with a domestic or offshore producer, there are certain common costs. However, the difference between domestic and foreign purchasing is that foreign purchasing must include the additional costs associated with conducting overseas transactions. If price is a significant factor, then a buyer must compare the total cost of the offshore purchase to the total cost of the domestic purchase. Elements of total cost for worldwide sourcing are base price, ascertain quantity breaks, minimum buys for shipping efficiency, and any surcharges. Determine the price for rush shipments of smaller than planned quantities, often more. Tooling. Ideally, the purchaser should own the tooling and pay for it only once. Consider shipping tooling from a domestic source if it is transferable. Packaging. This is a hidden cost, may be expensive for long distances and multiple handlings. You can consult a packaging supplier or internal engineer for methods to reduce costs on international shipments. Escalation. Determine for how long the quoted price is firm. Determine escalation components, that is, ensure that price increases are not hidden in other costs. Transportation. I'd appreciate it if you could obtain assistance from logistics personnel with expertise in international transportation. Consider consolidation of shipments with other corporations from the same geographical area. Use multinational carriers or freight brokers to manage shipments and costs where required. Consult the offshore supplier as a source of information regarding freight sources. Customs duty. Duties paid any time a shipment crosses international lines can vary widely over a range of goods and often change on short notice. Provided by U.S. published tariff schedules, items may fall into more than one classification. It may be best to discuss this with a customs agent broker. Insurance premiums. These are not typically included in an ocean shipment price. Need marine insurance. Do not pay for extra coverage that your company may already carry for international transactions. Payment terms. Offshore suppliers often grant longer payment terms, such as net 60. If dealing with intermediaries, the payment may be requested on shipment. Additional fees and commissions. Ask the supplier, customs broker, and transportation personnel if other costs may be incurred and who is responsible for these costs. If your shipment is held at the port of entry because of a lack of documentation and customs officials place it in storage, a storage fee will be billed to the customer. Who will pay for this? Port terminal and handling fees. U.S. port and handling charges include unloading cargo, port personnel's administrative services, and port use. Customs broker fees. There is a flat charge per transaction. Taxes. Consider any additional taxes that may be paid. Communication costs. There will be higher phone, travel, mailing, telex, fax, and email charges. Payment and currency fees. Bank transfers, bills of exchange, hedging, and forward contracts all incur fees. Inventory carrying costs. Higher levels of inventory will have to be held because of longer lead times. Costs include the interest rate forgone by investing funds, insurance, property taxes, storage, and obsolescence. Check with the controller. Certain costs are comparable between domestic and offshore purchasing. These include the unit purchase price quoted by a supplier, tooling charges, and transportation from the supplier. Similar cost does not mean the costs are equal. Unit price evaluation must consider the effect of quantity discounts, minimum buys necessary for shipping efficiency, the impact on price because of expedited shipments, and any supplier-specified surcharges or extras. Transportation costs also require critical evaluation. For example, what is the effect on transportation costs if the purchaser controls a shipment directly from the supplier instead of having the supplier arrange the shipment? What is the impact on transportation costs because of longer distances? International transportation often requires assistance from personnel with particular expertise. Transportation experts can review carrier quotations, evaluate shipping alternatives, and recommend the most efficient course of action, which may include combining international shipments with those of other purchasers to obtain favorable freight rates. A significant concern with international purchasing is managing the risk associated with global currency fluctuations. Because of this risk, companies often take steps to reduce the uncertainty associated with fluctuating currencies. The following example illustrates the principle of currency fluctuation and risk. Suppose a U.S. company purchased a machine from Canada in June. The purchase is in Canadian dollars at $100,000, paid on delivery in November. For simplicity, assume the exchange rate in June is $1 US equals $1 Canadian. By November, however, the Canadian dollar has strengthened to the point where $1 US equals 90 cents Canadian. It now takes less than $1 Canadian dollar to purchase a US dollar. Now, $100,000 US equals only $90,000 Canadian. This US firm needs $100,000 Canadian to pay for the machine. After applying the exchange rate, $100,000 US divided by 0.9 equals $111,111. The equivalent value of $100,000 Canadian becomes $111,111 US. If the purchaser does not protect itself from fluctuating currencies, the machine would cost $11,111 more than initially planned. On the other hand, if the US dollar strengthened against the Canadian dollar during this period, the purchase would require fewer US dollars in November to buy 100,000 Canadian dollars. This is the end of this segment of our lesson. In the next segment, we shall continue to discuss evaluating cost associated with international purchasing. This course is presented to you by South Europe College. Thank you for listening, and see you on our next segment.